Good evening. Today is Thursday, January the 7th, 2021. Happy New Year to each of you, my friends, our supporters, our viewers, viewing audience from both Facebook and YouTube. I want to say thank you for your support during last year, from the time that we started back in May, all the way through and through the end of the year. So we've come to another brand new year. There's a lot to talk about. Tonight we have a situation that happened yesterday in Washington, D.C., where our capital was invaded by Trump supporters. We have a pandemic that is on the rise. Lives are being challenged. We have issues that are taking place. We have the vaccine, two vaccines that have been approved and are now out on the market. However, they are not finding their way into the arms of individuals as it had been suggested. And certainly the death rate is climbing. We have a new administration that is going to soon be coming in. We have finally all of the procedural moments have been exercised, and Joe Biden has now declared officially as the incoming new administration and president, along with Vice President Kamala Harris. And then we have the upset of the senator's race that happened in Georgia. The bottom line is there is a lot going on in and around our nation. So I encourage you, reach out to your friends, to your coworkers, your family members. Ask them to tune in. We have a special guest that's supposed to join us this evening. And so we are looking forward to the opportunity where we can share with you. Well, let's talk about it. Let's get ready to talk about what's going on in and around our nation. Let's talk about it. Well, welcome to another live streaming broadcast of Let's Talk About It. I am your host, Reverend Edward N. Mason Jr. We are happy to be with you on this evening, the first Thursday in January. Once again, Happy New Year to each of you, to those that I have not seen, have not been able to talk to. We are grateful that the good Lord blessed us to be able to once again share and see the new year coming in. So much going on, so much going on, so much going on. Our show tonight is entitled America the Beautiful, or is it? We are familiar with this infamous song that America the Beautiful, and most of us know it from Ray Charles. Let me just give you just a little bit of it. In liberating strife, who more than self. All right, that's about all I can share. I don't want to infringe upon the rights of any, but we know that so many have sang that song, America, America, the Beautiful. Ah, but when we saw on television on yesterday, we must ask ourselves, is America really the beautiful? That's the question. Our leaders around the nation are asking the question. Our partners around the world are asking the question. How could America, the beautiful, that prides itself on being the greatest nation, the strongest nation, the most popular nation, the wealthiest nation, how could what happened yesterday have happened to a country as great as ours? And that's a good question. We must ask ourselves that question. How is it that these things happen? How is it that these things were allowed to take place? How is it that these things that we deemed as sacred? They talk about how sacred the capital of the United States is, Capitol Hill, the House, where the House of Representatives gather, the Senate on one side, and the House of Representative members on the other side. It's known as the Congress. But yet, we had folk from all over the country descending upon Washington, not really for the purpose, they said, for peaceful protest, but what we saw was not peaceful. They bombarded the Capitol, broke windows, broke doors, went into the building, defaced some of the property, set in legislative council persons' chairs. They did a lot of things and then they had the audacity to attack some of the officers there. They challenged what we saw. I want you to know that what we saw was not was not beautiful. And then there are those who are raising questions about what we saw, and if in fact there was something that was shared amongst those who were leaders, as if to tell the officers to stand down and allow them to just have their way. Now, I'm going to show you some video in just a few moments from what we see as officers of the court, officers of the Capitol Police, who actually opened up the barrier gates and allowed them to come in. Yes, I'm going to show it to you. It's sad. It's sad. There was even at least one officer inside once they had bombarded and got inside of the building. There was at least one officer that is pictured taking a selfie with one of the perpetrators. Well, just before we came on the night, the number that have been arrested had gone up from 68 to now just over 80, and we know that many of the law enforcement agencies, the FBI and the others, are now saying that they're looking into identifying these individuals, and once they are identified, they will be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. There are some questions that we have to ask ourselves. And some say they're not ready to make the decision to say whether or not, if in fact these individuals who were mostly Caucasian or white, if they're not ready to say that these individuals were given special treatment when we know just months ago when the Black Lives Matter movement descended upon Washington, they were met with brutal force and tear gas and other kinds of rubber bullets and other things. These individuals, these individuals uh, 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 that were acting on yesterday got a different type of treatment than those received from Black Lives Matter. And so there are some that saying, well, we're not ready to make a statement to say that it happened because these were white and the others were black. All I know is what we have seen is not a good thing. It's not a good thing for America. And in fact, America, America the beautiful has sustained a black eye. And not only that, but a bruise upside its head. Our reputation has been further marred. Our standards and world leaders around this world are looking at us and they're wondering what's going on. I remind you of a song. It's not a church song. It's not a Christian song. Uh, uh, that Lou Rawls sang. Y'all remember Lou Rawls, don't you? Lou Rawls had a song he sang one time. He said, "What's the matter with the world? Has the world gone mad?" That was the song. Anybody remember that? Let me know. Let me know if you remember that. That's what Lou Rawls said. Lou Rawls says, "What's the matter with the world? Has the world gone mad?" Then he answers his own question. He says, "No, there's nothing wrong with the world. It's the people that's in it." My friends, I want you to know we have some challenges that we have to deal with. And yes, one of our viewers, thank you for what you have said. Your statement of says what we saw. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Says what we saw yesterday was chaos, but best believe there are strategies among them. We should be glad that they did not use the strategy yesterday. They had firearms, chemical agents, and they had the numbers. They left on their own accord. Yesterday was simply showing that they can if they want to. Something that we really need to think about. And yes, thank you, our viewer. Thank you. We welcome your comments. Someone else wrote, Facebook is using. CNN has identified some of them. Yes, they are. They are. They have already identified some of them, and that's what they're doing. And in fact, they're reaching out to, because some of them, they've got it up on their Facebook page. They got it up on their media outlets, and so it's not hard to identify some of them. They showed that some of them were QAnon leaders. Some of them are persons who are in the gun rights and in all of those conspiracy theories. Yes, yes, some of them will be easily identified. Then let me go to another comment here. It said, but Black Lives Matters peaceful protesters got tear gas, yes, got ran over and assaulted, and you say racism where? Sickening. If they were brown, they would have been shot point blank. I agree with you. I agree with you. Yes, yes, we have to look at that. That is really something that we have to examine. The difference, and even the incoming President-elect Biden, has made a statement, came out today, and even he said no one can convince him that if these individuals were Black Lives Matter people, that they would not have been dealt with differently. Well, as a result of that, we know that there are a lot of calls now as it's coming. Members from Nancy Pelosi is calling for Vice President Pence to summons together members of the cabinet and invoke the 25th Amendment. Uh, they called him today and he would not even speak with them on the phone. Yes. America the beautiful, really, really. This is how we act. And she has even said and gone so far to say that if he doesn't act upon the 25th Amendment, they are preparing to do another impeachment. Well, as we know, there's only 13 days left in his administration before the new administration comes in. Is that really going to work? It's just ceremonial. There's nothing legal. There's no legal litigation behind it other than political. Uh, I'm just wondering if enough of them can get together and do like they did with Nixon, if they can talk him into resigning. There are many questions that are surrounding his competency, his mental competency. There are many questions surrounding that, and people are asking. They're asking the question: is he mentally competent? When they look at the things that he's done, the things that he's said, the fact that he has incited this riot. But then we must also look at the fact that the Capitol, the FBI, the military, all of those law enforcement agencies underestimated what was to happen. Even though it had been broadcast, it had been made known for weeks ahead of time. They were unprepared. Well, I think by the time we really get to the bottom of it, we'll find out that some folk at the top told them to kind of stand down and not to do some things. Well, the answer will come out, and we know even now the chief of the Capitol Police, from my understanding, just before we came on the air tonight, has already submitted his resignation. But before this is all over, some more heads are going to roll. Not only that, it's been reported on CNN that there are some people that were part of the crowd that, because of their involvement and participation, they have lost their jobs. Yes, a lawyer has lost his job. And then they said there was a House of Representative member. I forget what state it was from. That he was there, and they had voted to remove him from his seat. So several people have already lost their jobs, their livelihoods, as a result of participating in what we saw on yesterday. Listen, we must understand that there is a joke that is said. It's a joke, but it has true meanings. If you put a fox in the hen house, you'll have chicken for dinner every night. That's what they're saying. If you put a fox in the hen house, you'll have chicken for dinner every night. Then you have some that say if you elect a clown uh, for a leader, you'll wind up with a circus. Well, all of those statements have some merit. All of those statements have some merit, and this is not what America is supposed to be. This is not what our forefathers established, the rights and the protocol and the Constitution. This is not what they have established years ago. The grounds that we were built on, and I fault our legislative leaders, our senators, how members of the House of Representatives, those who were in what I call enablers, those who were supporters of our 45th president, of all of the wrongdoing that he has been involved with for years. They've done nothing to stop him. In fact, even yesterday, they carried on the senseless act of protesting and challenging the votes, even though they knew that there was nothing that could be done at that point. It was only just a ceremonial a procedure. Yes. And now many folk are worried. They're afraid. They don't know what he's going to do in these next 13 days. So they're trying their best to come up with some things. Well, uh, one of our viewers asked the question, what do you think? If Trump is removed with the 25th Amendment, could Pence then pardon Trump? Well, according to the Constitution, yes. There is even an idea that's being floated around and has been floated around now for some weeks. I don't know how true it is. I don't know if it'll happen. But the idea is, since Trump is making a suggestion or making inquiries about whether or not he can pardon himself, because it's never been done before, some are saying that he's going to resign about a week before, allow Pence to come into office and assume the presidency, and then Pence can then pardon him. And that will be totally legal, unfortunately. Yes, unfortunately, that's the Constitution. That's what we have, because the president has the right. The president has the right to pardon. Now, the pardon that the president can extend only, from my understanding, only refers to federal crimes. That's why the state's attorney in New York has said as soon as Trump is out of office, New York will be filing charges against him. He'll have to stand for those charges because those are not federal charges, those are state charges. And then I'm understanding that there are some other charges that are being sought after him that are not federal charges, such as some charges from DC and other areas. So it's likely that he will be charged with some things. Charges will be brought up against him that aren't federal charges that he cannot exclude, that he's been able to get around because yeah, he's been the president, and there's a rule that says you can't indict, you can't charge a sitting president. So they're waiting for him to leave office. That's one of the reasons why we believe he's fighting so hard. He's fighting so hard to try to stay in office because he knows the minute he leaves office, even one of his children, one of his sons, was overheard saying the minute that their father leaves office, that the whole family, they know they're going to jail. It's sad. So I asked the question, America the beautiful? Really? Really? Really, America the beautiful? And many of our Republican leaders, not all of them, some of them have stood up against him, and he has lambasted them, he has criticized them, he has challenged them, he has ostracized them, he has talked about them so bad. He's so bad. And that's why some of them won't come out against him. Then there are those who are using his base for their own political gain. They're saying that even while the Capitol was being overrun, being invaded by these folk, there were some members of the Republican Party that were texting and sending out campaign emails for fundraisers to collect money while the state capitol was being overrun. And some would say they were automated or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, while they were hiding, being shuffled in secret places, in tunnels and rooms, afraid of their lives, they were using this as an opportunity, as a fundraiser. Is this really what America is supposed to look like? Is this really what we are supposed to be doing? Is this really how we're supposed to be acting? We couldn't even talk about the victory that happened on yesterday. Yeah, the victory where the two Senate seats in Georgia was secured in the runoff because Georgia voters came out to vote. Now we've got the first African American senator from Georgia. We've got a young Jewish, the youngest senator that will be seated since Biden, when he was first said it as a senator. Uh, Georgia, which has always been a red state, has now turned blue. That's a victory. Yes, that's a victory. That's something that we can celebrate. So what does that really mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? I see you, Sister Wiley. Thank you for your comment. Yes, Trump and Pence are not talking. Trump has been hiding in the White House. He did issue some type of statement, from my understanding, not long ago, saying that those who are violating the law will be punished. Yes, well, that's a little bit too late, I think, when he already told his folk that they did a good job and that he loved them. That's what he told them in the statement that he made on yesterday. Well, we have to look at what does this Senate seat, these two additional seats, mean for us. Here is what they mean. Number one, because they won the two Senate seats, now the Senate is now even split at 50 Republicans and 50 Democrats. Mitch McConnell no longer is the majority. And when a vote comes down and it's a tie vote, the Vice President of the United States gets to cast the tiebreaker. That would make the Democrats 51 to the Republicans 50. What else does this mean? This means that now Joe Biden has a stronger chance of getting all of his nominees confirmed. Yes, yeah, because before, if the Republicans maintained control of the House, you know what they did with Biden. I mean, with President uh, uh, Obama, they did not confirm many of his picks. Some of them, the judge, they wouldn't even have a hearing with him or meeting with him. They stalled and shut down much of what the things he was trying to do. So the fact that Biden now has a Senate that is the majority on for the Democrats, and we still maintain a majority, although we lost some seats, we still hold on to a slim majority in the House of Representatives. So now look at what we have. The Democrats are now going to be in control of the White House. The Democrats are going to now be in control of the Senate. And the Democrats are now going to be in control of the House of Representatives. So they are going to control all of the legislative branches in government. They should be able to get some things done, although the Republicans are still going to give them a run for their money. But here's the thing. We have to really watch out for the tricks, the backdoor deals. I think what we have to do is have a real soul searching with the persons that we elect to be in office. First of all, they should be in office to represent us. They should be. They should be in office to speak on our behalf for the people. What we're looking at right now, crazy numbers as it relates to COVID-19. We see what this administration has done uh, from the onset. Testing has never been where it should have been. Not even close. Having the proper PPEs, protective equipment, was a challenge. And now that they rushed with this vaccine, and then they rushed to get it passed through. And the administration had the audacity to in some ways threaten the CDC that if they didn't pass it and accept it by a certain date, to turn in their resignation. What kind of crap is that? And our members of the Senate and of the House of Representatives, some of them sat idly by and supported this administration in that. They promised that 20 million people will be vaccinated by the end of December. The last count, it was just over 4 million. They've got vaccines sitting on the shelves in some places. There's no national plan for distribution. There's no plan for for vaccination. Each state is left to try to figure it out on their own. I tell you, we have some things that we really need to search our souls about. We need to really be looking at the individuals that we have put in office. In fact, we really need to start a letter writing campaign. I think we ought to do that. In fact, I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna see how many folk that we can get to start a letter writing campaign to those persons who are elected, that we have elected to be officials to represent us. To ask them, when are they are going to start representing our views, not their own agendas, not lining their pockets with finances, not going to Capitol Hill to get rich, but to be concerned about the people that they were sent there to represent. In fact, the next election for some of them on the Hill was going to be in 2 years. And I challenge any of those or anybody that's watching, if you are planning to run, or you would like to run, or you think you can run, or you have an idea to run, then you need to get started now. There are some things that you need to do. You can't wait until 6 months before it's time to run. In fact, you behind the 8 ball. We need people that are going to represent us for our issues. That's what we need. So we have the infiltration of the Capitol, and as a result of that, one lady was shot right in the Capitol, shot in the chest, died. You know there's going to be some issues about that. The issues is going to be because, number one, it was a female, and number two, she was white. There's going to be some issues about that. Now, they haven't come out and said who did the shooting, but I heard some information that it was one of the Capitol police officers. They haven't released the information yet, but I heard that it was one of the Capitol police officers that shot and killed this woman. Now, if it had been a black person that was shot and killed, may not have been much of a difference. But because it was a white female, watch what I tell you. Watch the repercussions that's going to come out as it relates to that. And probably the person that pulled the trigger, whether he or she was right or wrong, there probably wasn't an African American. Yes, there's usually different circumstances where information is shared. Yes. Well, one of our viewers, thank you for your comment, and said that the Republicans aren't really worried. Let me put it up there. Republicans aren't really worried about mass voter fraud. They're really worried about mass voter participation. You are 100% correct. And what happened in Georgia, what happened around this nation for this election, if you notice, this election was the most voter participation in history. It is sent the message. It is sent the message that folk are involved in what's going on. And then when you had the runoff in Georgia on Tuesday, they're saying that normally runoff elections don't usually get a whole lot of votes. Broke history, made history once again. The turnout. What were the numbers? African Americans, once again, made the difference. Once again, our viewer, another one of our comments, our viewer I put in, from my understanding, if you had COVID-19 before and you get the vaccine, you could have symptoms as if you currently have COVID-19. Now, that report or that information, I have not heard. I did hear that if you had COVID-19 before, that you still could get it a second time. There are reports of persons who have had COVID on more than one occasion. There's still a lot of discussion around taking the vaccine, whether or not it's safe to do, whether it's safe to take. They have not made it mandatory. I know some jobs. First of all, right now, if you are on the front line, if you are hospital workers, frontline workers, if you are over a certain age, if you're in assisting living or nursing home facilities, they are already receiving the vaccine. And then we found out, I believe it was last week, that some of the elected officials on Capitol Hill have jumped ahead of the line, and some of them, even though they said that it was a host, have jumped and received the vaccine. Yes, some of the ones that said it was a host have jumped the line and got the vaccine already. They didn't even qualify based on the fact of the requirements or the situations as being frontline workers and healthcare workers and that sort of thing. They jumped the line, but yet they said it was a host. Mm. Oh, America. America the Beautiful. That's what the song says. I think we have to do some real soul searching. I think we have to really look at the fact of whether or not, uh, how do we want to be seen? How do we want to be viewed? How do we want to be examined? We already have lost a lot of credibility with our partners around the world. We have allowed, or this administration has allowed, hacking to take place with no repercussions, or little to no repercussions. We've allowed a Russia to do some things, and this administration wouldn't even call them out. Is this really the beautiful America? Is this really when we allow other foreign adversaries to infiltrate us and we don't call them out? And not only that, but this administration won't even acknowledge what his own appointees have told him. Won't acknowledge the investigations of the FBI and the CIA and the intelligence agencies have said Russia has done this, but yet he won't challenge them. He won't even come out against them. He won't even speak out against them. Is this really the America of the beautiful? All I can say is we, those of us who know not just the words of prayer. I'm not talking about the words of prayer. You can read a prayer off a sheet. I'm talking about those of us who know the worth, the value of prayer. We're going to have to really knuckle down. This administration, the Biden and Harris administration coming in, has got their hands full. It's not going to be easy. Do you realize how much they're going to have to fix? Do you realize how many things that they're going to have to overturn? We have no idea the full extent of what this administration has done. No credible idea. All we know is the things that we've been told. But we have a mess on our hands. And this America, this America, this yet to be the United States of America. This yet to be the United States of America. This place that we call America the Beautiful. This place that we call the place of the home of the free and the brave. This place where we claim ourselves as the superpower. This place, as we have the audacity to have printed on our currency, in God we trust. But yet we don't believe in God. We don't trust God. No, we don't do that. No, we took prayer. Remember, we took prayer out the schools. Y'all remember that? Yeah. And I'm not even going to get into the issue about the church being silent on some issues. All I'm going to say is this: we have got to look at what's happening around us. We've got to ask ourselves, what part do I play? And I know you say, well, what do you mean? What part do you play? Yeah, what part do you play? Are you an enabler? Are you one that support wrongdoing? No, you may not. You may not go out and encourage it, and you may not go out and support it. But here's the thing: if you don't say anything, if you don't speak against it, that's supporting it. Silence is supporting it. It's just like voting. You can talk about the issues all you want, but if you don't go and register to vote and become a registered voter, and then after you are registered, if you don't go out and vote on election day, I know some folks say, well, my vote don't count. It won't count if you don't cast it. But look at all the people that cast votes, people that said that their vote didn't count. In this last past election, they counted their vote. They made a vote, and their vote counted. Even though some have said that the votes were stolen, and some have said the election was rigged, over 60 cases were litigated in the courts from the Trump administration. Over 60. And out of over 60 cases, only one case the court agreed with them on. Only one. And that was because of a technicality. It has been declared and proven that this was one of the most secured elections in our history. I challenge you, those of you who are watching us or watching this live stream, I challenge you. You've got young folk in your family. You've got nieces and nephews and grandchildren in your family that are 17 and getting ready to turn 18. You ought to make it your business to get them registered to vote. You ought to make it your business to get them registered to vote. Here is the thing. Here's what's on the line. Are you ready? Their future is on the line. Yes, their future, their livelihood is on the line. If you want to find out more information about it, feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email. I'll send you the link. You don't even have to leave your house. They can register right online. They can go online and register. Send me an email. I'll get the info. I'll send you the link. Yes, let's talk about it. The number one at gmail.com. Listen, I want to do some things different this year. I want to talk about some different issues this year. I want to keep you informed this year. I'm going to have some guests that's going to be mind blowing your mind. I'm going to have some folk on that you want to see this year. All I want you to do is stay tuned, stay connected. I'm pushing to increase our subscribership to our YouTube channel. If you're watching us by Facebook, I'm going to ask you to also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm pushing the YouTube channel because there's some things we can do through YouTube that we can't do on Facebook. We're streaming right now simultaneously to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. We have the ability to increase it to five venues at the same time. But we need to have subscribers. We need to have subscribe. I'm not asking you for a dime. All I'm asking you is subscribe, be a part of what we're doing. We've got some big things planned for you. And just as soon as this pandemic is over and we're able to meet and gather, I'm going to have a big gathering that we're going to be able to come and share, have some fun, some food, some music, enjoy ourselves. Yes, I've got some things planned for us this year. Will you be a part? Will you be in? Will you be connected? I hope you will. I want to thank you for what you've already done. I want to thank all of our subscribers, those who have subscribed to our YouTube channel. I want to thank you because you have helped to make it possible just by being a viewer and watching us. I want to thank our young people. We've got some young people that are watching. My grandson Kobe, I know he's watching. As soon as I come on, he always sends me a message saying hello, Papa. I've got some other young folk that are watching. I've got some folk watching around this nation. But we need to increase it. We need to do better. We need to rev it up. And so I'm counting on you. I promise you, we're gonna be one of the voices. You're gonna always be able to get good information here. Why? Because we are here to speak to the issues that are relevant to our community. We're working on trying to get some other elected officials on to talk about things, legislation that's going to affect us, especially folk in our community. We're pushing for that. I know we had supported Councilman Julian Jones with the initiative for police reform for Baltimore County, and we worked with him on that, and we were able to get it through. But we've got some other things that we're doing. It's not enough just for it to be in Baltimore County. We've got to get some things done in Baltimore City. The murder rate in Baltimore City was horrendous. Yes, in 2020. We want to hold our leaders accountable. Not only our leaders, we want to hold everyone. I want to hold you accountable. You may say, well, what are you going to hold me accountable? I want to hold you accountable for being a participant, a willing participant to make things better. And you may say, well, what can I do? Well, you have the power of influence. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family, you can talk to your neighbors. There's always something that we can do. Remember, what you do today is not just for today, but it affects tomorrow. So that's why we have to look at what has happened in Georgia with the Senate race. We've got to look at that. That was something that was major. Do you realize the records that were broke? Not only did they break the record as far as the number of persons who turned out to vote, they broke the record. They had over 3 million folk that did early voting between the mail-in ballots and the early voting. They had over 3 million folk who had early voted even before the day of election. So they broke the record for early voting. They broke the record for number of folk who turned out to vote. They broke the record because they flipped Georgia from a red state to a blue state. They broke the record because now they have the first African American senator from the state of Georgia, who just happens to be the pastor at Ebenezer, the church where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. pastored. Do you realize the things that are happening? And because of what they did, and those two seats were won in the runoff, has now changed the whole dynamics of the Senate seats. Do you realize that? All because folk got involved. Let me change that. Because African Americans got involved. If we ever realize the power that we have, if we ever stop fighting against one another and bickering back and forth, if we ever stop backbiting and having the crab pot mentality, if we ever learn to support one another and push one another and encourage one another, if we ever learned how to do that, pull our resources together, We can do anything we want. We can force folk to recognize us. How do you think Biden got to where he is? Because of the African American. How do you think Kamala Harris got to be the choice for the vice presidency? It's because African Americans stood up and made a difference. And as a result of that, he didn't have a choice. He didn't have a choice. He had to select an African American and a female at that. We have to learn how to stick together. We have to learn to work together. We have to remember what our grandmothers and grandfathers used to say. If you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say something at all. That's what we have to do. We have to learn the power of unity. And when we learn that, we can learn to put our monies together. Yes, I was searching because I got notification just a couple of weeks ago about an African American female who is now a part owner in this bank. And I checked and searched out. The bank is in Detroit. She's now on the board. I think she's the chairman of the board for the bank in Detroit. It's an African American owned bank. It's owned by African Americans. It's a black bank. Guess what I'm checking out? Checking out how I can take and put my money in that bank. No, I don't live in Detroit, but guess what? If I can open an account being out of town. Now I'm helping. Oh, I don't have a whole lot of money, but I guess what? The little bit I have, if I can help that bank that maybe that they can open another branch. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many branches they currently have, but I know it's more than one branch. But here's the thing: it's an African American owned bank. Yes, I can be able to say that I'm supporting an African American owned bank. And I actually tried to do business with African American businesses. I try to support my own people. We know sometimes that don't always work out because sometimes our people, we're not lazy. We're lazy. We don't want to do business in a business-like fashion. If you're going to run and own a business, then be business-minded. If you're not going to be business-minded, then get out of the business. We've got enough weights holding us down. I want to challenge you. While we're in the early days, this is just the 7th day of January. I want to challenge you that before the month is over, that you have a serious conversation, a conscious conversation with yourself. I know they say don't talk to yourself, but I'm going to ask you to talk to yourself. And the reason I want you to talk to yourself because you know the truth about you. Other people that you talk to may not know the truth about you, but you know the truth about you. Here's what I want you to do. Have a serious conversation with yourself and ask yourself this question. Isn't it time for me to identify who I really am? Identify who you really are. You are not just an ordinary person. You are somebody special. I want to tell you that. Regardless of what other folk have said, you're somebody special. I know you may be going through some challenges as a result of COVID-19, but guess what? You're somebody special. You may have some ups and downs. You may have some family problems. You may have some health issues. You may have some financial challenges, but guess what? You're special. Some people didn't make it to see 2021, but you did. So here is the question. What is it? What is it that God sees in you that you don't see in yourself? What is it that you have to offer that nobody else has? I guarantee you, if you search yourself, you'll find it. It may not be your money. It may not be your education. But guess what? You've got something to offer. You've got something to make a difference. You have something that can empower somebody else. Last year in December, I think our last show, we had the young man on from the Rich Foundation, young African American man who was out helping young kids, helping to provide mentorship, coats. We showed you the pictures of him out giving food away, giving coats away, giving toys away for Christmas. Some of you sent some help to him. He was on our show. We interviewed him. He's got another drive he's doing this month in January, and I think we're scheduled to have him back on the show next Thursday for an update. Yes, I'm purposing in my mind, in my heart, I want to help those who really are trying to do the right thing. I want to help you. I want to help you. Reach out. If you got something good going on, reach out to me. Send me an email. Send it to me. Yes, let's talk about it. The number one at gmail.com. But yes, I want you to challenge yourself. I'm going to challenge you. It's not going to be easy. I don't just throw my support and my weight and my resources behind people that's not doing anything. I'm going to ask you, do you have a vision? What is your plan? Is your plan written down? Have you thought it through? What investment have you made in your own plan before you ask somebody else to make an investment in yours? Guess what? We've got a whole lot of business minded people that's got some good ideas, got some good businesses, got some good things that they're doing right in the midst of this pandemic. I'm grateful. God has blessed me to survive a pandemic. I haven't been sick. I haven't contracted anything, and that's because we've been exercising what we have been told. Physical. I haven't been social. I don't understand why they call it social distancing when you can be socializing on the telephone. You can socialize through the internet. What I want to do and what I've been doing is physical distancing, keeping more than 6 feet from other people, not going into areas where mass gatherings are. That's physical distancing because we know the virus spreads through the air, through the droplets. And then I wear my mask. Every time I go out, I wear my mask. I have to go to the supermarket. I went to the shoe repair place today. My daughters, I got some fine daughters. They brought me some brand new shoes. I took them today. I took them to the shoe repair to get some heels and toes put on them because I want to take care of what's been given to me. I want to show my appreciation. I wore my mask. I went to Home Depot. I wore my mask. Yes, I don't go running around frivolously. I wear my mask because I understand I'm trying to stay around because I've got something that I have to do that God has charged me with. And part of it is being with you on Thursdays, talking about the issues that matter, speaking to issues that are relevant in our community. Yes, that's one of the things that I have to do. So the only way I can do that is I have to maintain myself. I have to maintain my health. I have to maintain my stability. And then I go to the doctors. Even on Christmas Eve, I was at the doctor's for my annual physical on Christmas Eve because I want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to be able to be there for my viewers because I want to help empower you. I want to help challenge you. I want to help encourage you. I want to do that. And I want you to know that you have the possibilities and the ability to do outstanding things. I want you to know that. I want you to know that. Well, our special guest just popped in. Let me bring him in. He got in just before we went off. He must have had something going on, and I appreciate that. Let me welcome Councilman Julian Jones. Councilman Jones, you got in just before we went off, but thank you. I know you're dealing with some heavy stuff for you not to get in, But listen, I appreciate you getting in. Welcome. Happy New Year, Councilman Jones.
Thank you so much, and I certainly apologize. Did my very best to get here on time, and sometimes things happen.
Yes,
In
sir.
my line of work, sometimes more often than not.
Well, the good thing is you're working and you're staying on top of things.
Well, I'm certainly doing my best, working for the people every day.
Well, that's one of the things that we talked about in our opening session. We talked about what went on in the DC on yesterday. We talked
Hmm.
about how our leaders have, some of them have been enablers. They've enabled this administration for years to do what they've done. And even while they were being overrun in the Capitol, the report came out today that some of them had the audacity to
Hmm.
be sending out texts and emails for fundraisers while the Capitol was being over, while they were being hunkered down. They had the audacity to be sending out fundraising emails.
Well, I tell you, but they had the audacity to still object. In other words, not back down. And there were a few Republican senators who said,
Right.
well, enough is enough. Let me call it a day. But there was others that just kept on uh, toting this line. And when you think about enablers, I'm always, I mean, we have to go is deeper than just Trump, because those Republicans enabled them to do everything they wanted to do, everything he wanted to do.
Well, the good thing is, Councilman, the good thing is we know, um, those of us who know the truth, we know.
Yeah,
And I want to thank you for your involvement, your work for the fourth councilmanic district in Baltimore County. As I shared with our viewing audience, you were inspirational in getting the police reform bill, even though we had to modify it a little bit,
yeah,
but you didn't give up. You backed up because you ran into a block wall. You backed up. You reevaluated. You made some changes. You didn't give up a whole lot of stuff. You know,
right.
you didn't give up some things that would cost us in the end, but you had to make some adjustments. And that's what being a good leader. I'm not going to say a politician. I'm going to say a good leader. That's what a good leader has to do. You have to be willing to make concessions for the good of the people to get, if to get what you can get through, and then you come back and approach what you didn't get through. You approach that from another avenue or angle.
No, you're absolutely right. And you know, we worked very hard on that police reform. It took somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 5 months, I think. I don't know. You were there with me, and we did everything we could. But at some point, you have to make, that's part of the process where you have to make some concessions, especially when you're listening to other people. It's not just me. I'm not like the king. So I have to listen to other people and take their concerns into account and work as best we can to come up with a compromise that we all could live with. And that's what we did. So, I appreciate my colleagues coming to the table and being willing to compromise and work with me on that issue. And, getting back to how sad it was yesterday, I know you guys already talked about this, but I guess, when we think about this country, what makes it so great is the peaceful transition of power. And George Washington started it, and every president since then, whether they wanted to leave office or not, when it was their time, they left peacefully. And Donald Trump is a whole different animal. And most of us, if not all of us, should have seen this coming a mile away, or actually 4 years away. That's how long we saw it coming. and the Republicans in Congress continue to go along, go along, go along. You know, I've often heard if you get somebody an inch, they'll take a mile, and they just kept caving in on whatever he wanted, no matter how crazy it was. And this is what we end up with. And you know, my heart goes out to the family of the young lady that died and the three other people that died. And you know, I think our Capitol Police and the police officers involved. A lot of people say that they were unprepared. A lot of people say that they did not do a good job. But I just want to take a minute to thank them for using restraint. And I mean, I don't know how it all broke down. I'm sure that there'll be some investigation. But, you know, the fact that we only had one person killed at their hands, it's not like they didn't have the weapons to do it. So I think that was good. And these people that did it, they'll catch them, they'll prosecute them, and at least I guess they'll catch him and prosecute him. But it was a very, very sad day. Very sad day. We all talked about the differences between the Black Lives Matter rally and how they handled that. We talked about when Trump went to hold a Bible in front of a church, how they cleared out that crowd. But here they seem not to be able to do much at all.
Well, it was certainly it was sad to say the least. And of course, a lot of actions will result from that, pending the investigations that will go deeper. I'm not always under the mindset or the idea that the person in charge need to resign, especially when we do not know all of the particulars. As you may have heard, the chief of the Capitol Police has now submitted his resignation.
Yes.
He's going to resign. But I think when it all comes down, we'll find out that some decisions were made higher up the chain. When we see, when we look at the video and see where the Capitol Police actually opened the gates of the barriers to let the folk come through, I think you'll find out that decision was not made by those officers that opened the gates. I,
Well, you know, I'm with you. I'm with you. And not just that, but you know, you think about all the tools at the disposal of the Capitol Police. I mean, they have a mounted patrol, they have dogs, they have all sorts of stuff. I didn't see those things deployed. I did not, unless I guess didn't see it.
well, they did have some dogs, because the dogs were used to sniff out the pipe bombs that were found.
Okay,
Well, the dogs were used. I'm not sure how many they had. I never saw any of the Mountie Patrol, but I do know, based on what the reports were, that the dogs, and the fact they had to use the dogs inside the building once they got everybody out to do a sweep before
right.
they allowed them back in the chamber. So I do know that that happened according to the report. Uh,
Okay,
but again, there are a lot of things that went wrong, even to the point where, like they said, the reports were said they knew this was coming weeks before,
oh yeah,
and they chose who. Now the question is, who are the they?
right,
That, that,
right.
that's the question. So I am all for accountability. Don't misunderstand me. I'm all for accountability. But I do not think that we ought to rush to judgment to call for resignations of individuals when we do not have all of the information. And I believe that this type of situation on the scale that it was on, there had to be some major conversation and directives from somebody higher up the chain. Higher up the chain. So, as we know that the Capitol Police is charged with securing federal properties, there in around DC, and they knew they had the information, and so uh, I just hope that a fair and honest assessment is conducted and then appropriately reported. That's what I hope. I hope
Well,
that.
I'm with you. I was just thinking to myself, I don't know, but is the Capitol Police Chief appointed? Is that an appointed position?
I've done that. I'm not for sure of. I'm not sure whether it's
That
elected.
was the first thing that sort of came to my mind was to think, is that appointed position? Is that something that uh, the president or one of his nominees appointed this person to the job?
Well, it very well could be because it's federal.
Right. So I
It's
was just wondering to myself, like, how did who does this person report to?
well that all of that will come out in the next couple of weeks once the layers of this situation begins to be peeled back. Let's switch gears a little bit. I'm going over time a little because you had situation, but I wanted to kind of ask the question as it relates to Baltimore County. Where are we with regards to COVID cases and getting that under control, and also with the vaccine distribution? Because I know states and different, everybody's doing their own thing because there's no national guidance. So, can you give us, our viewers, an update on Baltimore County's position on that?
Well, I tell you, our numbers are going up just like everybody else. So we've had so far somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,152 cases, and we've had in Baltimore County 600 and no 6,000. Wait a minute. In Baltimore County, we've had 990, 971 deaths from COVID. Altogether, we had close to 40,000 cases. So we're certainly not out of the woods. I mean, we're in bad shape actually. In terms of the vaccine rollout, people are making a lot of excuses. People saying a lot of things. And I understand that it may be some difficult logistics, but I'm just fed up, to be quite frank. I think we can be doing a lot better on the distribution of the vaccines. If we're not getting the vaccines, that's one thing. But I'm looking at places that have used, say, 20% of the amount of vaccines they have. They've deployed 20%. That tells me 80% is sitting on the shelf.
Now,
You
is
know,
that here in Baltimore? Is that in Baltimore County or is that elsewhere?
that's within the state. That's
Okay.
within the state. In Baltimore County, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Branch. And when I've had a conversation with him, and this was a couple of weeks ago, he was telling me they were ready, but they weren't getting the vaccines, and they wasn't 100% sure when they were going to get them. That said, until I see people distributing the vaccine 24/7, then you're not doing everything you can do. That's my position on it. I just feel like with people dying, and this is a true emergency, this can't be business as usual. This can't be 9 to 5. We're going to make an appointment for you. Come get your shot, and we're going home at 5 o'clock. We have to do everything in our power to get these vaccines out as fast as we get them. The only bottleneck that we should have is getting the vaccine. Whenever they show up, we should be waiting for them to distribute them. And that's not any mark on Baltimore County. Because like I said, I think Dr. Branch is on top of it. But throughout the state and throughout the country, that's where I think we need to be. We need to have a sense of urgency to recognize that we are in fact saving lives.
Can you assist me with getting him on the show maybe towards the end of the month? I know there's a lot of challenges. Um,
I
uh,
can try, but the answer will probably be no. And I'm gonna tell you why. I mean, I talked to him and I said, "Hey, listen, can I set up something where you can talk to my community?" And he says, "I can't talk to your community if I don't have anything to tell them."
okay,
And secondly, and second of all, we're waiting for the dosages so that we can be all hands on deck. So it's not. I mean, I don't mind putting an ask in, and conditions may have changed since 2 weeks ago. Um, but I mean, that's the best I can do is ask.
right. Well, I
Yeah,
got you. Well,
you know what I mean?
well, what I can do is if you ever get the opportunity and he does agree to talk with you to your community, if you can let me know, and if it's okay with you, I can do a broadcast simultaneous with you.
Okay,
What you're doing? Because I can take, let's say if you do it by Zoom, I can take and join your Zoom and then broadcast your Zoom out on my live stream.
right. I mean, a lot of people want information. A lot of people is hungry for information in terms of, when am I going to get a shot? Am I going to get a shot? Where am I in line? Is there a line? And I'm sitting here, the chairman of the county council. I can't tell you when I'm gonna get a shot. I can't tell you. I guess I can plug myself into the governor's chart, but when will that? When will you get to 2A? I
Right.
don't know. When will you get to 2B? I don't know. I can't tell you. At the rate they're going, at the pace they're going, it's just taking entirely too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too long.
Well, certainly that's a challenge. Do do you have any new things or any upcoming things on the slate as it relates to our council that you are pushing or that you would like to have support or with that you can share with us?
Right now, um, it's nothing really hot or anything new. Let me tell you some of the things that have happened in I guess, the last year. That, of course, we all know about the police reform, but prior to that, I got a bill passed that is a security footage bill where the police are working on it now. But the idea would be for citizens to be able to voluntarily notify the police and become a part of their register as to if you have a security camera at your house looking out into the public space. It will be voluntary, and if they ever wanted to get any footage from you, it will be totally up to you if you want to get it. Because the way crimes are solved now is, let's say there's a crime. Let's say, God forbid, somebody takes somebody's child. The police, not having a lot of clues, what they would do is canvass the area, look for security cameras on the outside of people's houses or camera doorbells, or they would look for this stuff and then knock on the door and try to get in touch with the owner to see if they can review their footage and then get it. All of this takes time. They normally do their canvassing during the day because a lot of times they can't see that well at night as to who has what. So my idea was, why not have a registry? So if something happens on this street, the police will be able to look at a registry right away of all the people who voluntarily want to participate and say, I know I have 3 cameras down the street. Here's the phone number of the owners. I call them up. They can review the footage and tell me if they have anything and save me an awful lot of time. And so that was one of the things that happened earlier this year. One of the things we did, this was, I think, last part of 2019. I opened up a commission to give people more time to appeal their sewage charges in Baltimore County. So the way it works is Baltimore City provides the water and the billing for the water. Baltimore County provides the sewage removal. The only way we know how much sewage comes out of your house, we base it on how much water comes in your house. You have to flush the toilet, you have to take a shower, whatever. That water coming in has to go out. So that's how we bill you. But what would happen? What would happen is you would have a leak in your house and you would get this astronomical water bill from the city. So you would call the city and you would say, hey, I had this leak. Can you give me a credit? You prove to them you had a leak. They would say, yes, we're going to give you credit. But you wouldn't think to notify Baltimore County because we only charge you the sewage bill one time a year and we put it on your tax bill. So you don't even pay it any attention. So what would happen would be uh, let's say you had this problem in July or June or whenever you have it. You get your tax bill, you don't pay it any attention, you pass it on to your mortgage company. They, one time a year, will do an escrow analysis to make sure you're paying enough money into your escrow. And then they would come back to you and say, okay, your escrow is short because there's this $2,000 sewage charge or $500, whatever the number is, and you have to pay the difference, or we're going to raise your mortgage to compensate for the shortage. And many times, what they would do is not just raise your mortgage to cover that shortage, but they would anticipate a future shortage. So they would raise it double. People were getting their mortgages, their bill would go up to $800 more than what they were paying, or $500 more. So this is where my bill came in. Those persons would contact the county and say, hey, I had a problem, blah, 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 blah. The county law at that time would say, okay, you had 60 days to appeal the charges. But you didn't even know about the charges because you didn't pay attention to your tax bill until your mortgage company told you there was a problem.
Right.
Once upon a time, you took your tax bill and you sent it to your mortgage company. Now the mortgage companies, they really don't care if you do it or not because they get all of those tax bills offline. So the time would have expired. And then what we found out was Baltimore County was really taking a very hard line on not giving people some adjustments on the sewer charge. Even though the city have recognized that, hey, you had a leak, you proved to us you had a leak, we adjusted your water bill. But the county would say, 60 days is up. Sorry, I don't care what you say, you're not getting an adjustment. So I went in and changed the law to give people up through February to appeal their sewer charge. And then, in order to provide some oversight, every year they have to provide the county council with a report on how many people filed an appeal and what happened to that appeal. Did you approve it or disapprove it? And if so, why? So, we're keeping a rough, close eye on that. And there was a few other things coming along, but I'd rather answer questions. I don't want to bore people.
Right. Let me ask you if there's been a decision or any information. There was uh, a a civilian review committee for the police department, I believe, that took place in September, where asked, they reached out to civilians to go out to the academy, I think, for 2 days to review their procedures. Um, And the reason I know about it was because it was mentioned to me. Uh, did anything come out of that yet, or is it still pending?
I guess it's still pending. During this month, I'm trying to look at the time right now. During this month, they're asking people to submit information to the committee. It's an equitable policing work group, and I'm a member of the work group also. And they were asking people, I believe it's this month, to supply information before they come up with their final report. While we're talking, I'll just look it up.
Right. So I mean, and I wasn't sure, uh, probably because I wasn't selected to participate, whether or not that information was made public, uh, as far as what the findings were of those persons who shared on that review committee.
Yeah, it. Let me see something. Let me see. Let me see. Let me
I think
see.
it was supposed to be for 2 days, and I think it was in September that they were talking about doing it. I thought.
Let me look at it right now. They had a number of listening sessions throughout the county. So,
Yeah, I usually participate or at least be on some of the listening sessions for the county. I try to attend as many of them as I can, just so I can stay connected with what's going on, and so my name keeps showing up.
right, right. I understand. I understand.
Sometimes you got to keep showing up, and then folks start asking questions. When I notice I see this person all the time, who is that masked man or something like that.
Right, right, right.
I mean, not that I'm trying to. I tell folk I have no desire to run for office. I have no desire for that. I believe that I can do more good on the outside than I can on the inside.
Well, you're doing a lot of good. There's no question about that. Doing a lot of good, and I appreciate you having me on and all the hard work you're doing.
Well, we're just trying.
Keeping people informed.
That's the whole thing. We're trying to keep people informed because some people won't reach out to certain information.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a closed bubble, or, in our own world, or sometimes our schedule, we're so busy, and that's one of the reasons why we do our broadcast in the evening, around 8 o'clock, for those parents that got kids and they got to make sure they get homework done and get them fed and get them bathed and get their nighty pajamas and stuff on and get them settled down for the evening. And then I didn't want to do it too late because folk got to get up and go to work in the morning. But usually, so that's why and that's another reason why we only do it once a week. But we just try to be relevant, try to keep people informed of what's going on, try to make sure that our community stay informed so that they'll be able to make the appropriate decisions. Um, that's where we are. But I do thank you for your time, Councilman.
No
Uh,
problem.
uh,
Appreciate you having me. I'm sorry I was late.
No problem, no problem. And I think you know by now, as always, if you need me, you know how to reach me. If it's
Absolutely.
something that we need to help support you with, or whatever, you know that you have our support. Not just our support, but the support of our listening and viewing audience.
One other thing. I guess the last bill I guess passed probably a couple of weeks ago dealt with lawsuits with the county. Basically, making the law department give us a report and make it public of every lawsuit that the county settled in the year. And you know, to me, that was important because a lot of times we would know about the big lawsuits, but I think some of the lawsuits is a good indicator of how we're doing. For example, if people are constantly suing us about something and we're paying taxpayer dollars to pay, uh, sometimes we would know nothing about it if we didn't hit the newspaper, even though we're the fiscal authority in Baltimore County. But those payments would be sort of hidden down deep in some report somewhere that we would never see. So I made them pass a bill with the support of my colleagues to make them provide a report to us every year and make it public, every lawsuit that we had. And if you recall, uh, one of the things that came out, just an example, one of the things that came out of the police reform is the number of lawsuits that was against the police because of excessive force.
Right.
Things we just didn't know about. So I think that bill will be very helpful.
In fact, if I remember correctly, they were saying that the number that was paid out was equivalent to what they could have used to build a school or something like that. Am I correct?
Right on the Korean games, that one case, we never had to pay that out. That would have been 30 some million. So it's still under appeal. We did not have to pay that. But if we do have to pay it, that's what an elementary school costs, about $35 million. Um, but on the other note, we had somewhere around 70 lawsuits. We settled 50 smaller ones to the tune of $3.5 million. But even $3.5 million, if you do that 10 years, there's your elementary school.
Yes.
So yeah,
Let
we
me ask you, was there ruling on the there was supposed to be a development up there off of Ricerstown Road um, near the in Owens Mills, somewhere by that golf course or something like that, where they were trying to build, and then they found out that there used to be a plantation, and there was some some unmarked graves of slaves. I participate. Well, I didn't participate. I was listening in on the hearing for that. Did a ruling come down on whether or not that developer was granted permission, and what did they do as it relates to surveying the property with those other possible graves that was on there?
I'm not sure whatever happened with the Graves issue, but what I know is the development was not approved.
Okay.
So I don't know whatever happened with the Graves issue.
Yeah, because in the report, they had agreed, the developer had agreed to set aside like a certain partial of that land. Let's just say hypothetically was like
Right,
3 acres, that they was going to build a little monument or something. Although they didn't know who the people were or whatever, but they were saying that there were probably only five unmarked graves there, and the challenge was for the amount of years that the plantation was there, it had to be more than five persons buried on that property. Um,
right.
and so I mean, I was a part of the listening audience of that for several hours, and I just wanted to know whether or not they finally got, because that was a suggestion made to the developer to do an extensive survey because they didn't want to do the extensive survey, but
Right.
but a suggestion was made to the to the to the judge, the hearing officer, that if they did the survey and whatever the survey came back with, they would accept that as as factual, and they would work out agreement with that. So I just didn't know what happened as it related to that. But you're saying that the development was not approved.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So that goes to show you that I do attend stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I know that. I see you.
Oh, and by the way, sometimes when you on there, I send you a little message, but you never respond. I say he ain't paying no attention. Because when you do those meetings,
Yeah,
you can send a private message to anybody that's listed there.
yeah. Sometimes I look at those things. Sometimes I don't. Uh, you know, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Now I'll pay more attention. But it's
Well,
probably better to send me a text message on my phone.
well, it's usually when I'm sending you something, I'm just usually just messing with you or just saying hi, or maybe somebody said something and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's accurate, But I know you doing your administrative thing, and I just kind of just shoot you a little something. But I know how to get you if I need you.
Yeah, I know. And everybody who's sending those messages aren't as nice as you.
Well, I figure you have enough problems, you have enough headaches with the job that you're doing, trying to satisfy your constituents. You don't know this, but I had to deal with one of our community people who were giving you the blues,
Hmm.
and they said to me, "Well, why are you supporting him? He doesn't do anything for our community." And
Hmm.
I just stood there and I listened to him because I try to be a good listener. And I said, well, I said, first of all, that's your opinion that he doesn't do anything. I said, whenever I reach out to him, I always can get him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I may have to wait a couple hours. I say, but that's fine. I try not to be a last minute person. I say, but he's always been responsive to the needs, in my community and in my area. Of course, I'm right down the street from Adrian's office, because I'm on the same street, but yeah, I had to deal with the individual. Well, and by the time I got through with him, and it didn't take long, all they could say was, "Oh, okay." So know that you do have some people that's on your side fighting for you, even when you may not even know it.
Well, listen. I appreciate it because it is a tough job. Number one, while we're talking, I have 3 missed calls of people I got to call back. I'm looking at the clock; it's like 9:30. Number two, sometimes in this business, people tend to hold you responsible for everything.
Right.
And some people just, God love them. They, you know what I mean? They'll say things, and maybe they just want me to listen. I listen, I listen, I listen. And I'll say, well, what do you want, or what do you expect me to do about that? Some of them will just say, I don't know. So you don't know, I don't know. I understand you're upset, but believe it or not, I'm not the king of the world. I'm out here working every day to make things better. Some things I can get done, and I'm human. Some things I can't get done. That don't stop me from trying time and time and time again.
Well, Councilman Jones, Happy New Year to you and your family. I pray Godspeed upon you and all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing the best way you know how to do it.
Well, same to you. I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you having me on the show. And keep on doing what you're doing. You're making a difference.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. Look forward to talking to you, seeing you out in the community.
All right, Brother Mace. Take
All
care.
right. All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've had it. You've seen it. We went over a little bit. We thank Councilman Jones for joining in with us. He's a busy man, um, and as you can see, he said he had 3 missed calls, and he is out and about in the community. I appreciate all the work that he does for the fourth district here in Baltimore County, and so we appreciate him. We appreciate you for putting up with us for the extra time. Once again, we are grateful and we thank you for all of that. Well, you've had it, we've had it, we've done it. We look forward to sharing with you on next week. Let's talk about it.